So what are these? Final Viva or what?
Yes, sir, to add up in the term 1 marks.
Term one. Okay, okay. Okay, good. And you, Reba, what's up with your school and academics?
We're done with term one exams and right now we're having online classes.
Okay, okay. And everything's fine. Your school are still closed. Like you're just.
So we did go offline for a few days and then we even wrote the exam offline. But then after some time, they said they're taking grade 10 and 12 exams. So they'll just take it online for us again. And then after winter break, they'll open it offline again.
Okay, okay. Okay, so today we'll be starting nervous system, as I told you, and others are having exam or what? Two people are not joining from very long time.
We just had our chemistry class like till
Okay,
5:30.
so
We just had to join the biology class after that. Maybe they're still joining.
okay, so should I wait for a couple of more minutes? Maybe a few will join. Yeah, okay. Any doubts? Anything you want to ask me, Mariam, regarding Vivas? Anything? Any tips you want? And
Yes,
with
sir, tips.
tips, what tips? Can I just say sir tips? So how is your Viva? It's like they call you by roll number and then ask you questions. It's just you go with
Yes,
your
sir.
practical files and all, or
Sir, this time we didn't really had to do anything in the practical. They just gave something and we wrote it down. And for Vivas, it's like 5 marks Viva. So they gave 3 chapters and we have to prepare for that and they'll ask.
3 chapters for 5 marks.
Yes, sir.
How are they going to divide it? Okay. 5 marks, Viva. Okay, cool. So what are those 3 chapters that they have given you?
Plant kingdom, animal kingdom, and cell chapter.
So these are not 3 chapters, these are units. Plant kingdom is a unit, right? Everything in the plant kingdom they'll ask you for 5 marks. Wow. Okay, so animal physiology. Okay, just the kingdom, like the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom part, right? Or the whole physiology, anatomy, morphology of plants.
Sir, I told
Not
the
that.
chapter like animal kingdom, everything we have in there.
So animal kingdom, I think you'll be confident with the animal kingdom, right?
Yes, sir.
If it's about plant kingdom, so my tip to you will be I'll be starting after finishing the physiology part. We'll go to plant part, and in between we'll also do um, cells, muscles, tissues, cell cycle, everything. So the tip is, I think, just in the plant part, you just have to focus on morphology a little more, because anatomy is anyways, I don't think they will ask a lot from anatomy because it's very, very factual. So a lot of facts are there, and uh, when I will start the chapter, I'll try my best to try to weave a story like I weave for human physiology. For plants, also see evolution in from the perspective of evolution. There is always a story. Why the anatomy is like that? Natural selection happened, right? Everything which is present today on the planet is present because it is adapted to the planet, right? All the organisms, plants, algae, bacteria, they all are adapted and naturally selected in this atmosphere, right? The planet's Earth's atmosphere. So there's a reason why we have certain organs, why other organisms have certain organs, what is its functional importance, anatomical importance. But morphology is something where you can like score more. Okay, Mariam? So if morphology is coming, just read about morphology. If only plant kingdom is coming, right, from that 5 kingdom classification, we had plant and animalia. So if that is just coming, then you don't have to worry much, because in that you just have to understand what are the different So in plants, instead of phylum, we use the word division, right? That's all. Rest is same. Kingdom, phylum, their kingdom, division. So just know the divisions and you'll be good to go. And it again, it always starts from the basic. Remember when we started the animal kingdom, what was the first phylum we started with? Porifera. The most basic kind of animals, right? Sponges. Do you understand?
Yes.
Mariam? Yeah. So just apply the same logic for the plant kingdom and it won't be very, very difficult. Okay. I think Aisha also joined, but she's not. She's joining. Anything else you want to ask? So with Viva, I have to make an announcement. So tomorrow you will have a Viva exam for biology, okay? It's like the last, every month we have one Viva exam, one written and 2 objectives, right? On the weekends. So let everyone come and then I'll make the announcement before I start the class. I can see Aisha joining, but she's just joining, but not joining actually. Okay, so let me share the screen in the meanwhile. Okay, can you see the screen, everyone, that I've shared?
Yes, sir.
So today we'll be starting with the nervous system, and it's important because of 2 reasons. One thing is, so remember when we started the animal kingdom part. Sorry, I told you that very early, like Porifera onwards. What do you think? When did nervous system evolved, and what do we mean by nervous system? So before I go into the details of it and start giving you a gyan, you tell me, what do you feel? What is a nervous system and why it is important? Mariam,
It's important because it controls everything.
but what is it? What is nervous system? Just like I asked, if you ask,
Word.
yeah, that is one organ associated in the nervous system, but like why there is a need to control, and when do you think in evolution or in biology that need to control things arise? So if I talk about bacteria, let me simplify my questions or pinpoint my questions. If I say that there is a bacteria, so bacteria is a unicellular prokaryotic cell, or if I say there is a yeast, what is similarity between bacteria and yeast?
Both are unicellular.
Yes, both are unicellular. Okay, but bacteria is prokaryotic and yeast is eukaryotic. So it is a unicellular prokaryote and this is a unicellular eukaryote. So do you think, are they living? Are they living organisms?
Yes.
Yes. So, and do they have nervous system?
No.
No. Okay. So which means, but can they sense their environment?
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course. Without sensing the environment, they could not survive in the environment. Like,
Yes,
I
sir.
also gave you an example how bacteria makes resistance against antibiotics because it knows that antibiotics is harmful, right?
Yes.
Okay. But they do not have a nervous system. Do they digest food? Does bacteria digest food? Or yeast,
Yes.
do they digest food? So they do break down, right? They do not digest the food as we digest, but there is metabolism happening inside a bacteria and a yeast also, right? So some things are very, very fundamental and is true for even a single cell or for a multicellular organism, right? Like metabolism, like awareness of their surroundings, respiration, things like that. But when we come to nervous system, it's when anything is system, it consists of lots of organs. And what question I was asking you, what is nervous system? So you can say nervous system is a collection of tissues and organs which helps in maintaining like control and coordination, as Mariam was saying, correct? But my next question was to help you think logically, why do we need a nervous system, or when do we or organisms start needing a nervous system? Of course, if it's a unicellular organism, that single cell does not need a control and coordination among different cell types, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
Because it's a single cell. Like if it has to move, the cell has to move. If it has to metabolize, the cell has to metabolize. If it has to excrete, the cell has to excrete. So that's all. So you have, for movement, you can have flagella. For metabolism, you can just start breaking down things because in the presence of enzymes inside the cell. So that's done and dusted. But in higher organisms, where there is collection of different systems, right? We have, and most of them we have studied, like digestive system, respiratory system, excretory system, and all these systems, that endocrine system that we have studied. But one thing, did you notice that one thing which was common in all the systems was, either at the end or in the beginning or somewhere, I always told you that there is a control center to regulate each system in the brain, right?
Yes, sir.
Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So which means that the nervous system is important when you do a lot of multitasking in the same organism, and not and all that thing are done dedicatedly by different. Hello, am I audible? Hello, someone can confirm. Okay, I think I lost you in the middle. Is my voice or my video lagging by any chance?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So I think it was a drop. So I was telling that we require, or organisms require, a nervous system when we have specialized type of tissues or organs to do specialized functions in the body. And all these functions has to be controlled through a master regulator. Like our movement has to be controlled. So when we are moving, we should also increase the respiratory breathing rate, right? So when we run fast, our breathing increases, right? Now running has to be done by bones and muscles of the body, whereas breathing has to be done by lungs. So how does this coordination is there? So there are two kinds of coordination which are very important in our body. One was the hormonal coordination through chemicals, that we call chemical coordination. Is it clear? That we studied in the last chapter. So one chemical goes from one part of the body to other part and tells that part to do something. Another kind of coordination is called a neural coordination, okay, which is through nervous system. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so just write few points before I go into nervous system. It controls and coordinates all the processes, all the physiological processes, to be very, yeah, kind of. Not always, but just write all the processes in animals or in organisms. Do plants have a nervous system? What do you think? Do you think plants have a nervous system? Think and tell. See, if you not give answers, then the discussion will be very boring. When I'll just teach and go. If you'll start discussing, you will realize a lot of things. What do you think? Do plants have a nervous system? Do they have a brain, a spinal cord, or any specialized tissue for that?
Something similar.
No?
But they're aware of their surroundings.
Are they aware of their surroundings?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you, just say yes or no, okay? And this will tell you how clear are you in your mind with respect to the answers. So first question is, do plants have nervous system? If you have to just give yes or no, what will you say?
No.
Okay, Mariam?
No.
No. Do plants have sensory systems?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So you understand it. So you understand the difference between that nervous system. All kinds of sensory systems need not to be the nervous system, right? But needs to function through a system that can send the signal to the master processor, which is brain in case of animals. So only animals have something called a nervous system, whereas all plants, you are right, that plants are aware of the surroundings. Any example? How can we say that plants are aware?
Touch
Because
me
we
not
cannot see them running away. Yes, sorry, Mariam. What?
touch me not plant.
Touch me
No.
not. So what does touch me not? What does touch me not do?
And when you try to touch the leaf, it closes or folds the leaf as a response.
Yeah. So right. So when you touch the leaves, it closes, like it retracts back, right? Yes, which means it can sense that someone is touching it, right?
Yes.
Have you also heard of carnivorous plants? There are certain plants that can actually
Yes.
predate on animals and insects.
Venus flytrap.
So there's a Venus flytrap, honey sundew, all these plants. So Venus flytrap is like a trap. It's open, just like a mouse trap. You must have seen in Tom and Jerry. And there are certain bristles. If an insect comes and touches those bristles, that trap closes, right? So there is some kind of, and it's very fast. That movement is, you will just feel like that plant is alive and it knows and it can just do that. So which tells that some kind of sensitivity or a sensory system is present in plants. But what is that? We will understand in plant system. For animals, we have a nervous system. Is it clear? The difference between sensory systems and nervous system and awareness, metabolism, everything? No doubt,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay, so write down. It controls and coordinates activities in animals. And together with the endocrine system, and in bracket write down chemical coordination. Together with the endocrine system, so nervous plus endocrine, it helps in maintaining the homeostasis in the body. And by homeostasis, I mean like everything running at optimal normal physiological conditions. Is it clear? So whenever something goes wrong, there has to be a signal and a message relayed to something that can correct it. Is it clear? It's just like an organization. So at lower level, if something wrong happens, where do you go? You go to the higher authorities, right? And tell them that something is not correct, please correct it. Is it clear? That's called homeostasis. Yes. Okay. Now, when we come to nervous system, talking about the nervous system, so nervous system is divided into two parts. One is called CNS, which is the central nervous system, and one is called PNS in humans, which is the peripheral nervous system. So let's make a flow chart to understand the this segregation. So nervous system as a whole, the first part is the CNS, which is the central nervous system. Is it clear? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did I drop out again? I don't know
Yes.
why is this happening? But my voice is not lagging, right?
No.
Okay. Cool. Take it. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there is CNS, which is called the central nervous system, and CNS consists of two things. One is the brain in human, and the second thing is
Spinal cord.
spinal cord, right? What arises from the brain? Spinal cord. Okay. Now, what happens to brain?
Three parts.
So what is brain? If I ask you what is brain? Yes, Riva, what is brain? How will you define brain? Forget what the science or what biology's definition is. What you think is a brain?
As an organ that controls everything.
But if I take that organ out from a human body and put it in a plate, then what is it controlling?
Nothing.
So what is brain? So what you're saying is the functional output of brain. But what is brain? I'm asking. What do you understand by brain? Okay, have you heard about a term called brain dead or coma?
Yes.
What is brain dead? Is a brain dead person dead?
Not dead, but his brain is not functioning properly.
So what is not functioning there?
He cannot send things and he cannot speak and
So what is functioning? Tell me. There must be something functioning still. That's why we are not calling it a dead person. We are calling it a brain dead person. Does the heart of a brain dead person beats?
yes, sir.
Yes, right, correct. And can that brain dead person breathe?
Yes, sir. No.
Yes, like with some help sometimes that
Yes,
person
yes,
can
yes.
breathe also on ventilators, let's say like that. Does the kidney work?
Maybe.
May or may not, yes, right. But the tissues are not degenerating. Like the difference between a brain dead and a dead person is that brain dead person, the body does not starts, what do we say, decomposing, right? It doesn't start rotting or decomposing. But a dead person, the body starts decomposing after a day, right? After a day or two.
Yes.
So we cannot keep that body at normal temperature for long. So brain is a very important organ. As you said, it's important for the functionality, but mostly it's a aggregation of a special type of cells called neurons in our body, right? And these neurons, its brain is called the processor. So this organ has a special ability to receive impulses and to send impulses. Is it clear? So even when the brain dies, it's not like all the cell. Even when a person dies, if a human being dies, it's not like the moment the human dies, everything in the body becomes non-functional and is decomposed. You know this you know about the concept of organ donations. You can donate all your organs after your death. So they do not take out that organ before you are dead. And in fact, even after like just 15 minutes after your death, they will not take your organs out, because every organ has a like time limit. So for example, you can, when you donate your eyes, they take the eyes, they can even take the eyes after a few hours of the death, right? Which means the eyes, the person is dead, but that tissue of that eye, that organ, can still be taken out from that body and can be transplanted in some other person's body, and that will work, right? This is what it means. Do you understand? That's why death is a very, very complicated thing in biology. Do you understand and what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So even if the person is non-revive, like it cannot be revived back. It's terminally dead. Like the person is dead, but still you can use and harvest organs and transplant it in other persons where it will work. So if I say that a person died, I took the eyes out and transplanted it in a blind person, and that person could see. So the eye of, will you say that the eye ever died? So the eye never died, right? Conceptually, the eye never died. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
How many of you know about, like, there is a special type of cells on which research is done, human cells, which are called HeLa cells. How many of you know about HeLa cells? Anyone knows about HeLa cells? No? Okay. This is very interesting. In biology, there was a person. So this word HeLa is taken from the initials of that woman. So her word was the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks. There is a book also, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. So Henrietta Lacks, HeLa, was a person in who she had cancer. Okay, she was terminally ill and she had cancer, and she died. But before she died, scientists took a tissue, the cancerous tissue, out of her body. Okay, and you know what is cancer? So okay, I told you in the last sections. Tell me, what is cancer? It's very interesting. What is cancer? Cancer, Baba, what is cancer?
When the cells in body grow like more than needed.
Yes, so it's abnormal growth of the cells. So the cells forget that property where they don't have to grow. Now they have to stop. They keep on growing and form tumor and break the epithelial layer and come out. So similarly, if you take those cells, scientists were trying to make a cell culture line where we can harvest cells from a human body and can culture them in a petri dish on a plate. So to keep cells living, what do we need? Nutrition, right? And all the other factors which are required for growth. Correct? But they were failing. And they thought that cancerous cells are one special type of cells that could be grown on a culture plate. So that Henrietta Lacks was among the first persons whose cancerous cells survived in a setup, in an artificial setup. And they are still used now. And she died a long back. Like it's been more than 40, 50, 60 years. She's dead. Or maybe less than that, but she's dead. And even decades after she is dead and cremated, a part of her body, the cells, because these cells have the same DNA of Henrietta Lacks, they are just cancerous. They have lost the property of contact inhibition, so they keep growing. So there was a lot of debate on this, and this was done without informing the family or taking their permission, because they took the tissue to understand the cancer and the research, or if we can treat the person or not. But when the person died, these cells stayed, and they realized that these cells can be cultured. So they have been used for a lot of research worldwide and are known as HeLa cells. And the family of Henrietta Lacks sued the research group in court that this is not done. Like, you cannot do it without our permission, because religiously, when you cremate a person, you believe that all the parts of that person are cremated properly, right? So, but a part of Henrietta Lacks is still alive in the laboratories. So these cells can grow, these cells can show all different kind of activities, and they can be cultured, they can be done research on, and from plate to plate you are just propagating it. So what do you think? Henrietta died, but how are these cells living? So did Henrietta died at all, or she's still alive through these cells?
That sounds like a horror.
Hello?
You're audible.
Am I audible? I don't know what's happening. That's okay. Do you understand my question, everyone?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Did you understand the question? So what do you think? Philosophically and scientifically, a part of Henrietta Lacks is still alive, right? These cells are living and show all the properties of being living, just like a cell in culture. So this is where, but these cells, one thing that they do not have is a nervous system because they are cancerous tissues, but they are living. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? So this concept of complete death is very, very complicated, even from the perspective of a nervous system, a fully active nervous system or no. So that's why brain dead people in many countries are considered dead. So if doctor declares someone brain dead in some countries, they will be taken out of all the medical support and will be declared dead, and the body will be given to the family. But in other countries, brain dead is not considered the final death, and you still have the right to keep your patient on ventilation and artificial support in the hope that it can revive. Do you understand what I'm trying to say biologically?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So in India, like if someone is brain dead, we still do not, like doctors cannot say, okay, the patient is dead, take away. The family has to decide that whether you want to keep the patient on artificial support or not. Okay. Okay, cool. So there is brain and there is spinal cord. So spinal cord helps in one thing. Spinal cord is always used for the output. Okay. So just write it down. Output. Hello.
Yes, sir.
It's very weird. Okay. So spinal cord is output from the CNS to the periphery. Okay. Always. So how does, so signal comes into the brain, this I told you, and it exits the brain through spinal cord. From brain it goes to spinal cord, and from spinal cord it exits out. But how does signal comes into the brain? So there are two different, yes, it also goes through, it goes also through the nerves. Like it cannot go without the nerves or neurons. So it has to come and go both through the nerves, right? But when it comes into the brain, which we call as input into the brain, you have to just remember input to the brain. So those signals are called sensory neurons, which are responsible for it. Okay, because they sense. So sensory neurons always bring the signal to the brain. So every organ is supplied by two kinds of neurons. One is sensory, from where you can sense what is happening, and the other is motor, which executes the function. Do you understand? For example, in your hand, so we have receptors, okay, touch receptors. So when we touch something, a signal goes from the hand to the brain that what are we touching. Suppose in the dark, you're just trying to figure out that where it must have happened, like you wake up in the dark and you already know your house very well, so you know where is what. So you can, without looking at things, figure out where like your spectacles are, or let's say the book is, or the fridge is, right? So you rely on your first memory, the map of the house, and second on your touch receptors, right? You know what touch feels like what. So it goes, and then there is a motor activity. Suppose mistakenly you touch something hot, you know, a hot pot or a hot thing, then all of a sudden you will retract your hand, right? So that retraction happened because your muscles contracted, because you sent a signal which said that this is not good and you have to retract back. So the signal to retract the hand back came through a motor neuron. Is it clear? Sensory and motor is clear. So sensory neurons, or also known as afferent division. This is the word they use, afferent neurons. So the word afferent means which brings the signal to the brain. And similarly, the word efferent means that takes the signal from the brain to other parts of the body. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, how I remember it is through the E. So the E is for exit. So I remember that it exits. Okay. But exits through efferent and comes through afferent. And also, like alphabetically, there is one trick that A comes first and signal has to come first into the brain to get processed. And then E comes later and signal then has to get out of the brain to show any effect. So efferent neurons are also known as motor neurons. They help in executing the function through brain, right? Now, this spinal cord and brain, which is a part of CNS, apart from that, whatever goes out of spinal cord. So the brain and spinal cord is a part of central nervous system. But what is present in our fingertip? Do you know? There is a neuron in our fingers, right? At the tip of the fingers. Touch your fingers. Can you feel the touch? All of you?
Yes, sir.
How are you doing that? There must be a sensory neuron here, right? A touch receptor neuron. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So do you think your hand has neurons? How many neurons? So our hand, do they have neurons? Say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes. How many neurons do you think our hands have? Just a rough estimate.
Many.
Many, like millions, lakhs, millions, right? Now, let me just complete this first and then I'll tell you something interesting. So efferent and whatever comes out of efferents now forms the PNS. So when the signal or the coordination part is out of the brain or the spinal cord, we call it PNS or peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system. Clear? Now, outside the spinal cord, it can be divided into two parts, two further parts. One is called the ANS, which in other words is called autonomic nervous system. And the other is SNS, or it can be called somatic nervous system. Is it clear? Now, somatic nervous system is simply the nervous system. It's specially just for the skeletal muscles. You know, our skeleton has a lot of muscles which keeps the bone together. So if you see a skeleton, like if you have in your biology lab a human skeleton, then those human skeletons are put together by screws and nuts, right?
Yes, sir.
Artificial bones are together with the screw and nut. In our body, we don't have screws and nuts, right? So what is holding our bones together? Muscles, right? Ligaments and tendons. There are two types of muscles, ligaments and tendons. Tendons are the white muscles and ligaments are yellow. Okay, so tendons and ligaments are the skeletal muscles. For that, the nervous system that controls that is called somatic nervous system. And further, the autonomic nervous system is divided into two parts. And it is very confusing, but I'll make it simple as we go along the way. So don't miss the classes. So there are two. One is called sympathetic nervous system. And one is called parasympathetic nervous system. nervous system. So these two comes under autonomic nervous system. Okay. And both of them play their role in other muscles apart from skeletal muscles. So for skeletal muscles, we have somatic nervous system. And these two works in all others. Like we have smooth muscles in our body, like the muscles of our, like the actual muscles in the body, which we see, which bodybuilders actually work on. And what other kind of muscles do we have in our body?
Striated muscles.
Where are other muscles? What?
Striated muscles.
Striated muscles, you're saying?
Yes, sir.
They comes under the smooth, like all the muscles, the smooth muscles, striated muscles, they are the muscular muscles. So apart from our limbs and the muscles that we have in the body, we don't have muscles anywhere else. Remember I told you cardiac, right? Muscles of the heart.
Yes, sir.
Cardiac muscles are one example. Also, we have muscles in every organ, in the glands, remember? All our exocrine glands, like our pancreas, stomach, intestines, liver, they don't have muscles? They have, right?
Yes.
All these come under autonomic nervous system. So this flowchart is clear. CNS is brain and spinal cord. In brain, sensory neurons, which are called afferent neurons, bring the input, brain processes it, sends it to spinal cord. Spinal cord is the output from CNS through efferent muscles or neurons or motor neurons. And when it goes out of it, then it enters the PNS, the peripheral nervous system, where brain is no longer controlling things. We call it PNS because it's peripheral and it does not come under the direct control of brain, but it can come under the direct control of spinal cord. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes. And PNS then further can be divided into two parts: autonomic nervous system, ANS, and somatic nervous system, SNS. SNS is for skeletal muscles specifically, whereas ANS, which works through two modes, parasympathetic and sympathetic, acts on all other types of muscles and all other types of cells, smooth, cardiac, exocrine, etc. So this is the organization of the whole nervous system. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So just write down few points. First, write down central nervous system, CNS. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's visible the screen. Everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So write CNS, central nervous system. It includes brain and spinal cord. It includes brain and spinal cord. And is the processing center slash decision making center. Processing center or decision making center of the nervous system or the neural control. Decision making center. So about this, we will study in detail. So let's just leave it here and write down peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system, PNS. It includes the nerve fibers that carries information between the CNS and other parts of the body, which carries information between the CNS and other parts of the body. Now write down components of PNS. So in CNS, it's simple: brain, all the neurons in the brain, and spinal cord. Write down components of the PNS. First component of PNS is something called cranial nerves. Cranial nerves. Okay. Second is spinal nerves. Spinal nerves. Third is something called ganglia. Ganglia. And sensory receptors. The same sensory receptors which send signal to the brain. All these come under PNS. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Cranial nerves, spinal nerves, ganglia, and sensory receptors are part of PNS. Now, cranial nerves or something. So, I told you when I was teaching you animal kingdom that for some of the organisms, I told you the difference is that they have cranial nerves. Remember that? If you don't remember, go back to the animal kingdom, and I have introduced that term there, but I didn't explain it there because I wanted to explain it here in the nervous system. Where is our brain situated? In the head, right? Head region of humans.
Yeah.
Right? And what do you think? Where, like, if I section the head from eyebrows onwards, the brain will be here, right? In this chamber, the top chamber.
Yes.
Is it true? Right? Now, how is brain there? Like, is it on something? So, you know, there is a disc or a plate. So this on at this part of the head, we have a plate on which brain is kept, kind of supported. Do you understand? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. And through this cranial plate on which the brain is kept, or so we can open. So, you know, when a baby is born, the head part of our skull is made up of 7 different plates. You know that? There are 7 different bones which make our head part. So when someone's brain surgery is happening, they can remove that 1 or 2 cranial plate from where they have to do the surgery. Suppose there's a tumor, or for some people there is a bullet in the head which got stuck somewhere, and then you have to remove it surgically or remove the tumor surgically. Then you remove one of the cranial plates and open the head. Do you understand? It's not one complete bone. How many of you are not aware of it, or you know you're aware of it? Our head is not one single bone. It's multiple bones together, making like a plate connected together. So you remove one of the bones and there'll be a hole through which you can see the brain. Similarly, on the bottom side, there is a disc on which brain is there, and very few nerves, like and the number is fixed, and these nerves can come out of the brain and go in the brain. So for every type of cranial nerve, it's a pair. Okay. Because the concept of spinal cord is, where is the spinal cord located? Like brain onward, neck below. Is it right?
Yes, sir.
But where is most of our sensory organs located? In the head itself. We have eyes, ears, nose, taste receptors, all in the head. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now suppose signal has to go from eyes to the brain. It can directly go to the brain, right? And in fact, eyes are a protrusion of brain itself. So it's a part of brain that just bulged out and elongated as an eye. Do you understand? if I make an eye looks something like roundish, and then there is a optic nerve that goes and actually
Mr. You're muted.
hello. I was saying there is some issue today. I don't know why it's dropping all the time. But my voice is not lagging, right? It's just dropping suddenly.
Yes, sir.
So I was saying that there is an eye, and eye is like a protrusion of the brain itself. And then it goes through optic nerve and becomes a part of the brain only. You understand what I'm trying to say? So two eyes protrude from the brain itself. So if you see, it will look like the brain is extending out. And eyes, we have retina, remember retina?
Yes.
The back part of the eye, and in the retina we have photoreceptor cells, right? Now the word, what does it tell? What does photo means?
Picture.
Light.
Light.
Photo means light. Photosynthesis. Synthesis of food in the presence of sunlight, right? Plants do photosynthesis.
Yes,
Photons, physics. What is photon? Quantum, one packet of light energy is photon. Electron, you understand? Photoreceptors,
Yes.
photons, photography. The word photography means we are actually taking in light and then just making a graphical representation of the light. That's called photography. So photoreceptors are the receptors which can sense light, and it is present in the retina of our eyes. And these photoreceptor cells are basically a specialized type of sensory neurons. What are they? Photoreceptor cells are a type of sensory neurons only. Is it clear?
Yes.
Which means they are just coming out and going in the brain. So you do not need a spinal cord. Signal can go inside the brain, can get processed, and again come out into the eye, because it's obvious now. Eyes are present very close to brain. So signal will go, and why will brain need a spinal cord? So it will send first into the spinal cord, and through the spinal cord, how will it come to the eye back? So directly can send it, right? So cranial nerves are called cranial nerves because they are present in the cranial cranial region. So this region of our head is called cranial. If you remove that lower jaw, then everything on the top is cranial. Is it clear?
Yes.
And we have a lot of nerves going directly into the brain and coming out of the brain. And since they do not go through, they are not a part of brain or spinal cord, but they are nerves out of the brain now. So they are a part of PNS. Is it clear? So this is sometimes becomes confusing because students know and they learn from the schools and books that cranial nerves arise from the brain and goes into the brain. So they think that it's a part, it should be a part of CNS, but it's a part of PNS. Similarly, spinal nerves, just like cranial nerves, which comes out of the brain and goes in the brain, spinal nerves also come out of the spines, goes everywhere, and then also brings signal to the spine. Okay. Is it clear? Should I move forward?
Yes, sir.
Now my question was, I was asking, let's make an axis, body axis. So this is brain sitting at the top, and there's a spinal cord coming out of it. And it's ending here. And suppose there's a neck and the shoulder, and you have hands and fingers. Pardon me for my bad drawing, but you understand what I'm trying to make here, right? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
And then you have legs here, let's say. So in a human, at the tip of the fingers, we have sensory neurons, like you said, right?
Yes, sir.
There has to be neurons, correct? And where are all these neurons coming from? From the brain or from the spine? What do you think?
From the
Fine.
Spine, right? Correct. So spine is connected with brain, and then a neuron from the brain. So all the neurons in the hand are coming from the spinal cord. Correct. Now my question is, from the tip of your finger to the spinal cord, how many neurons you think are present or you need to make a complete connection? At least how many?
5.
5.
How many?
5.
5. Why? Because we have 5 fingers.
5
That's why.
fingers.
Yes, sir.
No. Okay. So from that logic, Hrithik Roshan must be having 6.
Maybe.
Yeah, right. Okay. So let's forget the 4 other fingers. Let's take an example of any one finger, the index finger, let's say. So from the tip of the index finger, listen to my question and understand, because this is a thing that you have to learn to give a better examination, because the questions are very simple. They are just asked in a tricky way. So from the tip of my index finger, and so how much will be the length? Like, I think it's 1 meter, right? My hand will be somewhere 1 meter, somewhere, right? So a 1 meter distance from the tip of my finger to my spinal cord, how many? So there'll be millions of these nerve fibers, that I understand. But in terms of, let's say we take one neuron coming out of the spine and we just trace it. So how many neurons do you think there must be present to reach that distance of 1 meter? In one connection, Riba, millions. So
Yeah.
you mean to say that from here there is a neuron, then again a neuron, and all these neurons are forming lots of neurons, and then they are reaching till the tip, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? So Riba's answer is millions. Mariam?
Same, sir.
Same, millions. Okay. Nida? How many neurons do you think are there in one connection from the spinal cord to the tip of our index finger? Nida, Umar, Aisha? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You should try rejoining first. Maybe then it won't happen.
Sorry? What?
If you try rejoining, maybe then this won't happen.
Yeah, I think it's very irritating. So okay, okay, if this time it drops, I'll rejoin the whole meeting, okay?
Okay.
Yes. So the answer was, you say millions of neurons must be there because it's 1 meter. So you think each neuron is very small, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's a single cell. Okay. What if I tell you that from the spinal cord to the tip of your finger, there is actually just one neuron? And of course, there are.
5 neurons in total. One for each.
Yes. What?
We just said 5 neurons
No,
in total,
I'm not.
one for each finger.
No, but
At
it's
that
not.
time
That
we
is also not a
made it
true
like
answer.
it's a really huge number, so we said millions.
Yeah. So you are right. There are millions of nerve bundles, like millions of individual neurons throughout the hand, but one attachment is in the spinal cord, and it's very long, and every if you trace one neuron, it will go all the way from spinal cord to the tip of your finger or other parts of the hand. Is it clear? And since it cannot be just one neuron in this one finger, because you touch anywhere, you take a needle, like very, very fine needle, and try to touch anywhere on your finger, you will feel sensation, right? Do you understand? It's right, correct?
Yes, sir.
Which means there cannot be one single neuron, because one single neuron will just occupy a very less space, and at other regions you should not feel anything. So actually what you thought was thought by scientists also. So that thought is not very absurd. So they realized that if there is one neuron, we cannot trace back other neurons, then how can we feel sensation everywhere? There should be some blank regions where we cannot sense something, because that is true for eyes. You know, in our eyes, we have a spot called a blind spot, which is just at the region where the optic nerve is present. So suppose there is a eyes like a ball, and I'm seeing the eye from the front, okay? From the front, like you're looking at my eyes. So at the back side, where this optic nerve will be going out, there will be a region which looks like this, right? And then a nerve will form from behind and will go out, right? So this region effectively will not have photoreceptors. Does it make sense to you? Because this region will look like this. You know, to make a tube, you need to make that opening of the tube. So this part of the tube will not have photoreceptors. And if you focus the light there in the eyes, you will not see that. You know, you can actually do that experiment, and that blind spot is, you can focus your the light entering your eyes on that blind spot by doing an experiment where on a piece of paper, what you do, you go on internet and search how to experimentally prove our blind spot. So what they do is they make two dots. Let me take a paper for you and explain it to you, because it's interesting. So you take a paper and you make two spots, very small spots, very close to each other, like this. Can you see?
Yes, sir.
And then you keep looking at one spot and keep going towards the paper. So if you will just look at one spot, like, so if you're looking through the left eye, look at the left spot. And if you're looking with the right eye, look at the right spot. So technically, in the beginning, you will be able to see both the spots. Then close one eye, still you will be able to see both the spots. Then keep going closer and closer and closer and closer. You will realize that reaching one point, you will not be able to see the other spot. But you can see the nearby light, but that other spot in the light becomes invisible, because that other spot gets focused on your blind spot. So blind spot is the region where there are no neurons, no photoreceptor cells, so you cannot sense light. Similarly, if there is just one neuron, there should be some blind spots, or what we say nil spots for touch reception as well, where we cannot sense the touch, but we can. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So this is where people are always confused. So neurons, let's come to neurons to explain this. That's why I chose this topic. But there is one single neuron from your spinal cord to the tip of your finger, and that's true. So there is no junction in between. Is it clear? There is no junction.
Yes, sir.
Junctions always make the transmission delayed. Okay, that's why there is no junction. So let's first come to neuron. Let's understand neuron. What is a neuron? How does a neuron look like? Anyone has seen a neuron or a diagram of a neuron?
Long and then branched.
Yes, it is a very long, it's like a fiber, right? That's why we call it nerve fibers. So it's long, but every cell, it's a single cell. So every cell need to have a cell body. Like there should be a body, the cell where the cytoplasm is present, right? So it has, so neuron looks like this. Like I always draw it like this. So this is the cell body where we have nucleus, and let's first draw. Keep drawing with me, everyone, and then I'll explain you. Okay. These are branches in every direction, and then there is one, just like you said, elongated. Like this is some Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just dropping and rejoining. I'm able to just, it's just connecting very quickly. I'm audible, right?
Yes.
So this is something that you must have seen in your diagrams, in your books, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's understand what are each part. So this part where this cytoplasm and nucleus is present. So this is the nucleus and this is the cytoplasm. So this is the true cell of the neuron, and together this part from here to here is called cell body, because this is just an extension of that body. And in from the cell body on one side are your, these structures are called dendrites. Dendrites. And this cell body is often sometimes in the book written as cyton. Neuron, the cell body of a neuron is called cyton, because cyte means cell, right? Will you remember this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And this part right from here till here, what is this called? Axon. So there's a cyton and a long axon. So it looks like this. This is cyton. My fingers are dendrites. In between is the nucleus and cytoplasm. And then there's a long thing coming out of that cyton, which is called axon. Is it clear? And the region where the cyton joins with axon is called axon hillock or hillock. Axon hillock. And at the end, there are again bifurcations, and they are called axon terminals. Axon terminals, right? Axon terminals, or also known as axonal endings. So this is where axon ends, and at the end of axon, I'm making this bulb-like structure, right? So these bulb-like structures are called synaptic knob. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on the neuron, there is in your book, you must be seeing a diagram like this. So something is present at regular intervals. If you can see in your books, right? There is present something like this.
Yes, sir.
Now this structure is called myelin sheath. Okay, but the myelin sheath is covering the axon, but it is not covering the axon everywhere. So in between, like areas like this, if I draw here, this area, you see here there is no myelin sheath, right? This area is, and this area again, then this part, the myelin sheath is absent and the axon is exposed. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
That is called node of Ranvier. Node of Ranvier. So everyone, please make this diagram first, labeling the full neuron, and then I'll explain. Tell me when it's done.
Done, sir.
Everyone, it's done.
Yes, sir.
All the parts are clear. Should I move forward?
Yes, Yes, sir.
So write down a few things about each and every part of the neuron, then we'll come to the functionality of it. First, write down, majorly, every neuron has 3 parts, majorly. And the 3 parts are these, which I am underlining. Dendrites, cell body, and an axon, right? Everything else is the sub-labeling of it, present. So they have dendrites, cell body, and axon. Now first write down about the cell body. It contains cytoplasm and all typical cell organelles. All typical cell organelles, which is Golgi body, ER, mitochondria, lysosomes, etc. Just like you have studied in a normal cell, right? So this is also a normal cell, but just a specialized kind of function is there for this cell that we'll study. So the cytoplasm contains cytoplasm and all typical cellular organelles. And remember I told you one, I have, yes, ganglia. I've told you this one thing, ganglia. What is ganglia? So write down the cell bodies of the PNS neurons. The cell bodies of the PNS neurons are clustered together and are called ganglia. Do you understand this statement? The cell body is clustered together and is called ganglia. Now,
Yes, sir.
let's come to this human diagram. So if I told you that there are many neurons in the hand, but every neuron has the cell body present in the spinal cord. So I mean that in the spinal cord, if I zoom this region out, so I'm zooming this region out here. So what happens is that in the spinal cord, all the cell bodies of the neuron are present in cluster, right? All these round things I'm making are the different cell bodies of different neurons, right? And this one cluster will be called a ganglia, where all the cytons are present. And then each cyton will release a very long axon. Is it clear? Do you understand, everyone?
Yes, sir.
And there'll be multiple lakhs of these axons running all through our hand. So in this one finger, there can be thousands of axons. That's how we can feel sensation everywhere. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So you are right in a way that there are millions of neurons, but they are not present in a series. The difference is all their cell bodies are present in the spinal cord. Only axons are running out and reaching every end of the hand. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Is it clear? Yes. So this is like a fiber. It's running like a fiber. And since we can have sensory inputs from our hands, we have sensory touch receptors. So at the end of these axons, what kind of neurons are also a part of this process? Sensory neurons, right? Sensory neurons are also present. These sensory receptors are present on these neurons, these axons. So this sensory receptor is also a part of PNS in our hand. In our hand, everywhere we have sensory neurons, sensory receptors. Is it clear?
Yes.
So there is no junction in our hand, like no 2, 3, or 4 neurons are making junctions. Now, when neurons make junctions, what happens? So this is one neuron. Imagine a second neuron making a junction with the first neuron. So all these junctions are made mostly in the spinal cord and brain. Is it clear?
Yes.
So you just copy paste this neuron and put it here. So axon ending or synaptic knobs of one neuron will make junctions with the dendrites of other neuron. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So if I talk about the direction of propagation of impulse, signals always enter the neuron through dendrites, right? Signal enters through dendrites. Then it goes inside the cyton. From the cyton, that signal is sent into the axon. And at the very end of the axon, where this knob, this synaptic knob, connects to another dendrite, that part is called a synapse. What it is called?
Synapse.
Synapse simply means a gap. So there is a gap. At the junction, there are two types of junction. So these synapses can be of two types. One is called a electrical synapse. Okay. Another is called a chemical synapse. Okay, everyone? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, for electrical synapse to happen, both these axonal ending and the dendrite of the other neuron are so close or almost touching each other that the impulse which is carried out by one neuron, which audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I was saying that electrical synapse is the synapse in which one axon, which is carrying an electrical impulse, is so close to the dendrite of the other that it just passes on, like they are physically in contact, so that electrical impulse keeps on going. It's like two wires in connection. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
But for a chemical synapse to occur, so this is the let's say this is the knob of the first neuron. This hand is my first neuron, and this is the dendrite of the other. So they basically are at a difference. So there is a distance between the two. Is it clear? They are not touching completely. They are at a distance. And the region in between, that empty space in between, is that chemical synapse. So how do you think the propagation can happen from one neuron to other if they are not touching? So electrical impulse will come and will stop because there is no connecting wire. So how do you think the signal will continue to the next dendrite? Because there is a gap. What is your idea? Is there any way? There's an hint in the name. Electrical synapse is just like two wires joined together, so the electricity continues to flow. In a chemical synapse, I told you there is a gap. So what could be one way?
Reaction takes place.
What kind of reaction? Where will the reaction take place? Just apply your mind.
In the gap, and then it will go to the next dendrites.
Yes, you're again like on the very right track. but what kind of chemical reaction you're talking about? Let me just try to push you towards the answer. The signal which was coming from the cell body for neuron 1, the first neuron, was in electrical form, right? Electrical impulses. It reaches the end, and since it cannot continue because there's a gap, what could we do? Can we convert that electrical signal into a chemical signal?
Yes.
Yes, right? And this is exactly what we do in a chemical synapse. So the electrical impulse that reaches there, or the electrical potential that reaches there, because of, and how does potential is formed? Because of ions, positively and negatively charged ions, right? This is simple, right? In chemistry, physics, biology, wherever there are ions, you can form flow of ions is called current, right? Flow of charges is called electric current. You have studied it in physics, right? And ions have a charge, calcium 2 plus, sodium plus, chlorine minus, they have charge. And if they are flowing, they can give rise to current. Am I right or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that potential, that electrical, which has electrical identity, when it reaches the axonal ending, it gets converted into a chemical form. And then this chemical is secreted out into that empty space. From the axon knob or the synaptic knob of first axon, it is secreted out in the empty space. Then these chemicals travel into that empty space, reaches the dendrite of the other neuron, and on the dendrite of other neuron, there will be receptors on which these chemicals can bind. Like hello?
Yes, sir.
You remember ligand receptor interaction? So there's one chemical which goes and bind to a receptor. And then that chemical signal which was present in the synapse reaches the dendrite. Then again, there will be a conversion from chemical to electrical, and it will flow from dendrite again to the whole length of the axon. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you think it's time consuming? Don't you think it will take? So which synapse do you think is faster? See, discuss with me, because it will be difficult for you to remember everything until you understand the logic. So when I teach you, it's just the story. I told you that in a chemical synapse, there is an electrical to chemical conversion. Then again, that chemical travels in between the gap, reaches the dendrite, then there is binds to the dendrite, and then there is a chemical to electrical conversion. So there are two conversion steps. So which synapse do you think is faster?
Chemical to electrical.
No. There are two synapses, electrical and chemical. In chemical synapse, this conversion happens at every step. It happens first in the axon of the first neuron, from electrical to chemical, then travels the gap which is present, then reaches the other dendrite, and then there is a conversion from chemical to electrical. So there are two conversions in a chemical synapse. In an electrical synapse, nothing is there. That potential just can continue to go, just like an electric train on a rail. So the rails are connected together, the wire is connected together. So there is nothing in between. So which synapse is faster, electrical or chemical, according to you?
Chemical.
How can chemical be faster than
Electrical.
what?
Electrical.
Of course, chemical synapse is taking too much of time. The potential is reaching the axon and then waiting here. The signal is moving from the body, from the dendrite to the body. It very fast reaches the axon end, but then waits here for it to get converted from a electrical form to a chemical form. Then that chemical form travels, goes and binds to the dendrite of the other neuron, then again waits for the conversion from chemical to electrical, and then moves. And everywhere when neurons join, this happens. So it's like you go to an airport and at every stage you are getting checked. So you will be faster reaching the aeroplane or slower.
So
Slower.
So which do you think is faster?
Electrical.
Of course, electrical synapse. There is one single line and you do not, that electron or that flow of charges is nowhere checked. It just keeps on going from one to other like zip. So it's faster, right? But in our body or in our brain or in physiology, human physiology, most of the synapses are chemical synapses. Only very few synapses are electrical synapses. So chemical synapses are a lot and most preferred in biology, and electrical synapses are very, very less. Now, what do you think could be a reason? The faster, don't we want to transmit fast signals? We want to be slow, right? It looks like that. So there must be something that is advantageous in a chemical synapse also. Now, who can tell me what is the advantage of having a chemical synapse over an electrical synapse?
To be able to control.
Control what? Electrical synapse is also controlling. To control, you have to send a signal, right? Brain has to send a signal. You put a foot on the thorn. Mistakenly, you were just walking on the garden. Something pricked in your feet. Now your feet is the farthest from your brain, let's say, for that matter. Or you touched something which you think is an animal or something. Then brain just have to send a signal, or spinal cord just have to send a signal that remove your feet. So through which synapse do you think it will be sending the signal faster?
Electrical.
Of course. So why do we have chemical synapses more and very few electrical synapses, and all these electrical synapses are only present inside the brain, never out of the brain anywhere. So these electrical synapses are only limited to the brain, to this region only. Nowhere outside the brain we have electrical synapses. Whereas if we think, it does not make sense. We should have electrical synapses outside, because the regions which are farthest is our hands and feet. To send signal to them, we use chemical synapses and not electrical. Why? See, biology always have a logic. So think, what do you think is the advantage?
To collect
So that we can take so that we can take more time, and by that time our feet is already gone, and our like whatever damage has to happen has happened. So basically biology wants to make us slow intentionally so that we don't survive. So time is against the logic. So if you argue time, we are losing. Chemical synapses are losing the argument if time is considered, because yes, electrical synapses can just come and say, we are the fastest, take us. But body says, physiology says, no, we will stick with chemical synapses. Then what do you think could be the reason that you can argue in favor of chemical synapses? Anyone? I explained you the whole process. Can you just think and tell me why chemical synapses are preferred over electrical synapses, even though electrical synapses are faster than chemical synapses? A board question, 5-marker question. What will you write? Any idea? Unless and until you have an idea, you can just see, I can teach you. Now, teaching is very simple. It's just like giving facts. But I try to discuss things with you so that I can make you aware of what you are learning. Learning is a tedious process. Sit with your book and read the chapter 5 times, and you will learn a lot of things, but not understand. You will be like the parrot who can just speak everything, but does not understand what it is speaking. So if I give you the answer, you will say, okay, yes, this is the answer, makes sense. But what do you think? Why do we have chemicals? Why does anyone? Yes, Maria. Any system prefers chemical synapses or electrical?
Electrical synapse is possible through chemical synapse.
What? Electrical synapses?
possible through chemical synapse?
No, electrical synapse is where there is no like in between space, or it's very so small that the current can just pass through. In chemical synapse, there is conversion from electrical signal to chemical signal, then it reaches the dendrite, then again from chemical to electrical signal, and then it moves in the other neuron. Anything else that you can argue? You all are going to be, if you ever become lawyers, you'll be very bad lawyers. You cannot argue in favor of something.
They are allowed to connect and control the other system of the body.
They are allowed to connect
Yes.
other systems. It's not also about other systems. Just look at the synapse. Focus on synapse. Why is one synapse better than other? In terms of timing, electrical is better. But what is more important in control and coordination than timing? So obviously you are right. Biology is compromising on time. Biology said, see, I know if I take electrical synapse, our body will be 10 times faster to control things, but I don't care about how fast I do. I care about dash. Now fill in that dash. What do you think is more important than timing?
Correct information.
So electrical synapses will also send the correct information. There is nothing like one neuron speaks in Latin, the other speaks in English. But you are going on the right track, right? You are try harder. Let me try to push you towards the answer. What is the benefit of having 10 checkpoints, which makes the system slow, but
Make sure there is correct action or
yes, again, try again. Try to give the same answer again.
it makes sure that the action is being taken correctly.
Forget, you give the same answer again without using the word correct or correctly, because that's not the correct answer.
Make sure
there is
that
one
action
word
is being taken.
that's being short in electrical synapse. What is the action? The action is to reach from the signal has to reach from point A to point B, and you all are just focusing on that. I am just telling you, do not do that. You all are saying that action has to reach, action has to be taken correctly. It's true.
The action already reached
Our brain,
point A, then the other points we already know that the action already reached. It will be informed upon the arrival.
It collects more information each point.
yes, something related to it, but no. Okay, let me ask for the one last time and then I'll give the answer. Okay, what is the benefit of
Less energy.
suppose no, in fact more energy is required in synapses. Why do you think your brain uses 20% of the oxygen of the body and lot of glucose? The most amount of glucose and oxygen is utilized by this 1 kg organ in the body, because it requires a lot of energy. So if you speak energies and times argument, electrical synapse is winning. But we already know in our body, chemical synapse has won through evolution. So I am asking you, let me ask in another way. You are leaving, you have an exam, okay? Or let's I gave Mariam, understand the question, okay? I want to make you thinkers. I gave Mariam a very a signal, okay? I gave Mariam a message which was to be given to Reba, okay? And there were two scenarios. In one scenario, Mariam has to listen to my message, leave the house, and is not allowed to speak or do anything, reach Reba and deliver the message. The other scenario, I wrote that message somewhere and I gave it to Mariam, and Mariam is allowed at 3 different checkpoints to read and understand that message again. So
Repetition of
what do you think is
no mistakes will happen, we'll be sure of, like, because
sorry. Yes, yes. What is the benefit? What is the benefit? So which is
every
more
checkpoint
beneficial?
you get
the
where you have to
we-
wait it.
The chemical synapse is more beneficial,
Yeah.
right?
yes,
How? What is the
we get
benefit?
more time to
Because you
revise
read it over and
it
over
easily.
again, and then you don't make,
Time, don't use the word time. Time and energy is
you
in
confirm
favor of
it,
electrical synapse.
you confirm it. and
Confirm.
The information repetition.
If that message is written in a letter,
will forget about it.
okay?
Maybe you might make a mistake.
No. See, forget about mistakes. If I wrote a message for Reba and sent through Mariam, on the way, Mariam realized that, she can change the message, and she should change the message. The message is like incomplete, or the message is, I don't want Rahul to convey this thing to Reba. Maybe something is about Mariam herself. So what advantage do Mariam have if that letter is with Mariam and she has 3 checkpoints where she can actually open it, read it, and if she wants, make changes to it? Does Mariam have an advantage?
Yes.
So what is that advantage? The advantage of regulating the intensity, nature, and type of signal. Do you understand? And this
Yes.
is why. So you all were focusing.
You're audible.
Hello, yes. You all were focusing on time, and that signal has to be correct. The signal is correct, but see, chemical synapses allow the nervous system to modulate the signal at will. It's not like start and end thing. Like, it's not like electrical synapse where if the signal of intensity 10 starts from one point and has to go to the last, it will keep going with the same intensity, right? 10. But let's say we do not want that intensity. In between, the body realizes that the intensity has to be lowered down or increased depending on what is the need of that signal now. Do you understand? Everyone?
Yes.
So the ability to modulate, increase, decrease the intensity of the signal, chemical synapses are preferred. And this happens sometimes. A very low signal from the brain, when it reaches our other organs, it has to be intensified, and that is done through chemical synapses. Because, and how it is done is like this. So the regulation part, where you are allowed to do modulation to the signal, is more beneficial to body and evolution and biology than the timing or the speed or the correctness of the signal. Do you understand? Is it clear?
Yes.
Now I'll give you an example for it. Why this is important is because let's say, to achieve homeostasis, let's say I lock you. I will never do that, but let me just, for hypothetical situation, I lock Reba, Mariam, Omar, and everyone who's in the class. Who's there? Aisha. I just lock all of you in a very stingy, foul-smelling room. So what happened? The first minute 1, when you are locked, it will be unbearable, right?
Yes.
But will it be the same level of unbearability for, like, if I lock you for 6 hours?
No.
No. Why?
We'll get adapted to it.
You got, yeah, you use the word adaptation.
Yes.
The point is homeostasis. So when you first inhale, the first few breaths, you are like, it's so foul, like I cannot survive here. But still the person survives. You may have seen people living in areas around like sewer systems or foul smelling areas. A new person goes there and feels that it's like it's unbearable. But those people are just living there without any problem, right? Correct or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Because after some time, so there is a signal which was sent to the brain, and brain showed a response that, you hold your breath, you will try to, like, maybe it's so foul that you vomit it out. But if every time that intensity of the signal stays the same, so you cannot survive for 6 hours. You cannot keep holding your breath for 6 hours and keep vomiting, right? The body has to tone down the signal, right? Okay, it's fine. It's fine. After 5 hours, or if you start staying in that region after few months, you will not be able to, like, feel that, oh, it's foul smelling. This is the smell I live in. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So people who so this was one example, not directly related to what I'm trying to tell you, but an analogy to make you understand that why it is important that signals has to be modulated. So what happens in a junction is, let me just make that junction in a zoomed in image. So what is this that I'm drawing? Synaptic knob, okay, of axon. So axon is ending and there is a synaptic knob. And then what is this that I'm drawing?
Dendrites.
Yes. So this is the dendrite of the other neuron. Okay. And in between, do you see there is a space? So when electrical impulse reaches here, the potential or the signal reaches here, it cannot cross and go as an electrical. So it has to change from this electrical to a chemical nature, which are called, so there are vesicles. Vesicles means bag-like structures filled with chemical, which are called neurotransmitters. What are they called? Neurotransmitters. Anyone can tell me what the term means? Neurotransmit.
Transmits neurons.
What?
There's a message.
Yes, it's chemical messengers that transmits the signal within neurons, neurotransmitters. Radio transmitter. Have you heard the word radio transmitter, radio receptor?
No.
Okay. So it transmits. So these chemicals then in the form of vesicles move towards the edge and then fuse here and release the transmitter out. Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
And these things on this dendrite, there will be receptors. Then these neurotransmitters will go and bind to the receptors. So there will be multiple receptors, lots of, and multiple of these neurotransmitters will go and bind to these receptors on the dendrite. And then within the dendrite, so this is conversion 1. And within the dendrite, there'll be another conversion, which will again make it electrical impulse, which will run through the dendrite. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now at this part, you have the ability. Suppose there was a very strong signal coming from the brain for anything, to do something, but you realize that that strong signal is not required downstream. Like even you do not want to give that strong a signal to the other neuron. So how can you regulate it? The amount of neurotransmitters that you will release in the synapse and the amount of neurotransmitter they will bind, that will bind to the other dendrite, right? So even for a strong signal, you can just release few neurotransmitters, right? Is it clear? It's like I wrote in the letter very strongly for Reba that this is not done, Reba, capitals block, and I shouted in that letter, in that message. But Mariam thought, okay, but this message should not have been given this strongly, so let me just tone it down. And Mariam made it to Reba, I'm disappointed, you should not have done it. Do you understand? Toning down of the message. So this is only possible if Mariam had that access and she could modulate the signal. And sometimes it's very, very required to maintain homeostasis in our whole body. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear? Yes. This thing is not possible in electrical synapse. Is it? No, because there is no checkpoint. Message starts from one point with the same intensity, keeps on traveling and reaches the other point. Electrical synapses, which are not without modulation, can only work in certain regions of the brain where they are required, where we do not need to modulate the signal. Okay. But for other parts of the body, to maintain homeostasis, we need to modulate the signal a lot. Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Was the discussion worth of it? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now write down few things. Functional classification of neurons. Then we will come to synapse. Or synapse first. Okay, write down functional types, functional classification of neurons. First, write down afferent or sensory. This one. Where is it? Where did it go? This one. Afferent neurons or sensory neurons. And write down, they carry nerve impulses. They carry nerve impulses from peripheral sensory receptors, from peripheral sensory receptors, like the which are present in our hand, in our nose, in the taste receptors and things like that. Peripheral sensory receptors to the CNS. To the CNS. To the CNS. Okay. These sensory neurons are unipolar in structure. This is important. Now, what do we mean by polar? So they are unipolar because of a reason. What do we mean by poles? Pole, North Pole, South Pole. Two ends, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Polar means which has two distinct domains. So the neuron which we made here is actually, multipolar. How is it multipolar? It can get signal from multiple dendrites. So you see there are multiple dendrites and there are multiple axon endings as well. So it can take signal from multiple different neurons and give signals to multiple different neurons also at the same time, right? So this is multipolar. Unipolar is which can just take signal from somewhere. Now this signal which is taking is from the outside environment. Sensory receptors always take signals in the form of stimuli, like the receptors for temperature. When you are hot, you start feeling hot. When you touch something, you feel that touch. So where is the signal generated? Outside. For example, if I touch this mobile phone, I touch it. So the signal generated in the fingertips, and then they will move just in one direction towards the spinal cord and CNS, right? It will not do anything else. It will not bifurcate the signal. So it's called unipolar. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
What is a bipolar? A bipolar is which can take signal, give it to the other neuron, and from that take signal and give it to the first neuron back. Okay, that's bipolar. It has two poles. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And then it's happening a lot too. I'll figure out what is it. Point is that if I try of rejoining. Before that, it's connecting it and it's on its own. Okay, anyway, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So sensory neurons are always unipolar. Most of the time they are unipolar. So write down, they are unipolar in structure. And next come to efferent neuron or motor neuron. This one, efferent or motor. Write down, motor neurons transmit nerve impulses. Motor neurons transmit nerve impulses from the CNS to the effector organs. Effector, EFFECTOR, effector organs like muscles and glands. Okay, like muscles and glands. Now these motor neurons can be of, yes, Eva.
Repeat that one point.
Sorry,
Can you-
what?
Can you repeat that one point?
Yeah, motor neurons. What did you write? Transmit
Transmit
nerve impulses from the CNS to the effector organs, to different organs of our body. Effector organs like muscles and glands. Muscles and glands. For example, these are examples. And it can be of two types, which is shown here. Either it can be of autonomic motor neuron, or it can be somatic motor neuron. Okay. Then you understand, if it is a somatic motor neuron, it will send signal to skeletal muscles. If it is an autonomic motor neuron, it will send signal to other regions, smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, exocrine glands, etc. Correct? So this detail is only required for your entrances. For your boards, you just understand that there is afferent and efferent. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now I will just so when afferent neuron comes, this is afferent. It brings signal, and I told you that efferent takes the signal out. Now what happens in between? You know, in between there is a neuron which is called intermediate neuron or interneurons. Simple. Interneurons relay the information from afferent, then for processing, and for to efferent. So there is also interneurons. Okay. They are also called association neurons. Just for your entrances, it's important. Association neurons. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
But one thing that's true for all neurons, whether any kind of neuron, is that direction of propagation of signal is always from the cell body to the axons. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, I think the basics were clear in today's class, a lot of it. Now I ask you one thing. I'm giving you an assignment to go back and find about something called reflex action. Anyone knows what is a reflex action? It's your take-home assignment that you have to do today, and I will discuss in tomorrow's class. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So reflex action, one thing I'll tell you, in reflex action, there is no participation of CNS. So CNS is not a part of a reflex action. So what will be the part of reflex action?
PNS.
No. but their PNS is just the what is dispersed out, motor neurons and sensory neurons. You need someone to take the call for that action. So who takes the call here? So by CNS, I mean, sorry, I should not have written CNS. I am sorry. I mean, in a reflex action, brain is not a part. Brain does not play any role. So there are many functions, neuronal controls in our body that does not happen because of brain. So what takes the decision instead of brain?
Sensory.
No. The spinal cord. Is it clear?
Yes.
So brain, instead of brain, the vice president, the spinal cord takes the decisions. Okay. Now you have to go and figure out when do that happen. What is a reflex action and why, how, if a brain is not present, then how are these decisions made? This we will discuss in tomorrow's class. And another important announcement for tomorrow class, please tell everyone, whoever will join, and you four should know this. So tomorrow is your Viva, okay? So just like last time, I will do the same thing. You join the class at time. So tomorrow's class will be a longer one. The first 1 hour will be a Viva. Is it clear? Just like the last time. And I will mark you according to that. Okay?
There is a last
And the
chapter, right?
this. You're talking about this?
No, the last chapter about hormones.
So the Viva I will take. So you have given tests till which chapter? Tell me. Should I ask which chapter you want in the Viva? So last one that we finished was chemical control and coordination. So let me give the syllabus. The syllabus will be the reproductive part, whatever I have taught you, not because whatever is required, and the complete endocrine system. Is it fine? And I will not just ask names, I will also ask the concepts because it's Viva. So this is the syllabus for tomorrow's Viva. So the first 1 hour will be the Viva, and then next 2 hours will be the class. So it will be an extended one. Is it clear, everyone? Any doubts? Anything you want to ask me?
Sir,
Say yes or no.
That means still pituitary gland.
No, the full endocrine, pituitary, thymus, everything, every gland that we have done. We have done hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, pancreas, adrenal, testes, ovaries, right? And in testes and ovaries, I have also told you about the secondary sexual characters. Again, that's just a little bit more extension of testes and ovary, but majorly the endocrine system. Is it okay? Any questions?
Sir, I might not get time to prepare for the whole chapter.
You just have to revise. I'll not ask you facts, much of facts. Just revise the chapter once. It will not take you more than an hour. And in fact, it's part of human physiology. So anyways, you are going to use it in your 5 hours or something. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, someone is writing something. So, okay, Omar, you won't be able to join. So we have to reschedule. So talk to Nishkarsh and reschedule your Viva when it can be done. I don't know. But you will not be able to join the class at all because tomorrow's class. Okay, so tomorrow's class, I was going to teach the structural organization of CNS and the most important parts. So get your hold on to the videos if you will miss. Okay. Okay, cool. You take the recording. Okay, see you others. See you tomorrow. Don't worry about it. We'll just discuss. Okay.